Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. It is Migraine and Headache Awareness Month.
Yes,
and I am here with the one, the only, Dr. Lindsay Weitzel. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about this lady. So, I'm going to start with that she is a migraine strategist. She can go into what that means. And she has affiliations with many different organizations, such as the Association of Migraine Disorders, being their scientific liaison. She is the Heads Up podcast host for the National Headache Foundation. She is the author of Zoe, the Migraine Superhero. Migraine Hero. Hold on.
Super Zoe, the Migraine Hero. Yes,
very
complicated. Yes.
And what did I miss?
I feel like that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. And she's just amazing in general.
Migraine Nation. I have
of course.
a Facebook group called Migraine Nation for people
That's right.
with chronic migraine. Yes. Where we support each other and we learn together. Right.
Yes, absolutely. So feel free to check that out if you haven't already. You know, it's hard to keep track of all your accomplishments because you're like that great. So here's the thing. She's going to come around, guys. I'm just forewarning you. She's going to tell you that I am one of her heroes. And that's really ironic. Yeah, spoiler alert.
You're ruining it.
I'm sorry. That's ironic because she's one of my heroes.
Oh.
It's true. It's really true. And it's not just because this woman lived in pain every single day from birth, literally born this way into pain every single day. No break, no chance for anything else. For 30 years? Over 30 years?
Probably about 30.
That's long enough. Cut off, And it's not that we're saying, you don't have pain still now. You definitely do. But you were able, with your migraine strategizing, to work your way out of it dictating your life.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what is migraine strategist?
Oh,
I never heard about that until I crossed paths with you.
I'm not telling you migraine strategy is. I'm leaving everybody hanging because you haven't introduced yourself.
Oh, sorry. Yes, we get carried away. We could have talked about everything all day.
We haven't talked about Kohu.
That's right. Of course,
keeping our heads up.
Gotta show love. Thank you. Yes, that's what we do. Keeping our heads up. Thank you. I am the founder, the very proud founder of Keeping Our Heads Up. Kohu. Thank you. It is a kind of human connection network, if you will. We kind of started in the realm of support, and we definitely still have that feel. However, we realized down the line that support can only kind of take us so far, and it's good to have that, and we need to have that. And it seemed like that base was kind of covered, So it's more like a self-help situation, which, whether we want to face it or not is what we all have to do at the end of the day. And then I'm also the proud creator of Peace and Love, Holistic Health and Wellness. That's my love affair there because it is rooted, like I said, in holistic health, and that what personally has proven the most beneficial on my pain journey, which I think, we'll get into more. But there, you have me now? Okay, and in terms of born this way, I guess, I didn't come into the world with pain per se. I was very young.
Very young.
When it very first went down, about 10 years old. So when I think of my life before pain, I can't really remember it. So in a way, it kind of feels I was born this way.
Right.
But my way of kind of shaping that is what we'll talk about a little bit later. So yeah, we'll leave them hanging on that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay. So are you do you want to tell them your history first? Yeah, I want to hear your history. Is while you weren't exactly born this way, which is kind of what I was. Your history was transformed so fast at such a young age that
yes.
I feel like the title Born This Way applies to you. You had such a traumatic event at such a young age, so please tell everyone about it.
Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that. So, I was a hardcore swimmer. Diving, in particular, was my passion. I had my eyes on the Olympics, maybe long term, and my tan Y'all should have seen me out of this world, okay? And so, like a fish. And so swimmer's ear is something that can just happen. And it happened to me quite frequently already, as it were. And so this one time in particular, I don't really know if it was like negligence on the provider's part, just kind of like, oh, I see her all the time, whatever. Or, something that really couldn't have been seen with the naked eye. Either way, doesn't matter. One thing led to another, and it was actually an ear infection that spread into my brain, made my brain swell up, slipped me into a coma, 2 brain surgeries, very deeply rooted nerve damage, and this head pain.
10. I want to know. You were 10 years old.
Yep.
And you?
10 years old, so it's been about 20 years now. And so, leaving that experience intact and still on planet Earth, very real blessings that have helped me stay focused on what really matters, because I learned early on we are not invincible. And you really can just be minding your own business as a kid and get, or at any time in your life, and no moment is promised. Mm-hmm. So in a way, it was a gift to learn that at the age of 10. But it has meant that my head has hurt every single day since then, all day long. And that pain, because it's been so stimulating for my nerves, has shot them in a sense. And so different conditions have evolved. And so there's a lot of pain every day, kind of everywhere, which I know you and I have in common in different ways. But pain is pain, ultimately, we know. And so it's just a matter of kind of bringing ourselves back to center and getting through it moment by moment. But what about your history? So, I got struck down, it was traumatic, whatever, and I had to learn to kind of be born again.
I think that the one thing I want to point out before I get too far into my history is that Mia has cluster attacks literally every day.
Oh, yes. That's very true, Lindsay. And this spring in particular, it can be very difficult on that. And because of certain other things I have going on, because my situation is so unique and complex. Mm-hmm. Anything that anyone could mention, I don't mean to discredit anything or say that my mind is closed off to ideas by any means, but odds are A, I probably tried it, been there, done that many times over, and B, because of the TBI. And it's interesting because I know that I get traumatized every time I have an attack, and I'm having attacks all the time. And so it really, I hit a wall with having to manage ongoing trauma, because I don't really think it's something that goes away for any of us. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of how we carry that. But, you had no pain-free time, and now you may have some pain-free time if you're lucky, but you still have pain regularly.
Yes, I do. I didn't have a pain-free memory as a child. I got my migraine. I inherited it from my dad. He also, his earliest memory is of migraine. So my very first memory of life is migraine. I, at least from age 4, because that's my first memory, but it was earlier than that, had daily migraine. And it was daily till the age of 30. And it was so severe and so constant that it caused me to have complex regional pain syndrome, which was in the same pattern as my migraine. So it was basically the whole right side of my face, neck, head, and it went all the way down my arm, actually, into my hand. And for people who aren't familiar with complex regional pain syndrome, it's very hard to describe. It's the constant burning fire. It's not just your skin. It goes all the way down into your bones, and it feels like your bone marrow's on fire. So that was severe, and it does alter your tissues. It eats away your bones and your tissues, and I am missing the roots in some of my teeth and things like that, thanks to the CRPS. But I do think that the reason we wanted to call this Born This Way, and we wanted to, other than the fact that we love each other, we're great friends, and wanted to get together and do this, is I work as a migraine strategist, as you said. I love calling myself that, even though everyone's like, what the heck is that? And it's because I help people essentially build. I have a PhD in a scientific field, and then I have this history, and I help people build rock walls against their migraine disease and their chronic pain. And like half that rock wall is strategies that involve medications, and half is lifestyle, and then like the mortar that holds it all together is mentality. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to get together and talk about some of the strategies that we feel came from being children with debilitating chronic pain every day. And we could talk about this for weeks on end. But we thought of just like 3 main things that we thought, because it's Migraine and Headache Awareness Month, that we could just get across to our communities that we feel are so helpful. Just like with love and in a friendly way, throw out there to anyone who wants to listen. Yeah, I just thought we should start with that, and we could just jump in and start with the first one.
Let's jump in.
Yeah. The first one we wanted to talk about is has to do with the subconscious mind, which rules everything about us. It rules our whole life without our permission. And the difference in the subconscious mind that I see in everyone, in every client I see, it seems like, and in all of our friends in the migraine world who weren't born this way, who had a life before their migraine started and their chronic pain started, is that they're beating their heads. Their subconscious, not their conscious mind, is sort of like beating their heads against a wall, trying to get back to that pain-free memory that they have. And for someone like us, who might not have much of a pain-free memory, because our pain started at such a young age, we're spared that. So it's something that we can see in people, and it's something that I work with people to sort of fix. And you'd be amazed at the turnaround, because we are given such a finite amount of energy as people in chronic pain. And that energy, in my mind, has to be spent entirely on healing and on manifesting that future that we want for ourselves, as people who are overcoming and living our best life, despite having, whatever chronic disease we have. And unfortunately, if our subconscious is constantly just beating on us and saying like, hey, I want that old life. I want that old life. I want that old life. How come I can't have every day without migraine? How come? It is probably taking like 50% of your energy doing that all day long. Yeah. And it's such a sad thing to see. So I love to, whatever way works for, and it's not the same for anyone, but whether if you're a visual person, maybe a vision board to take that pain-free past and turn it into a pain-free future that we can then build strategies to work toward. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, we got to take that pain-free past and make it a pain-free future somehow. And so to me, that's sort of like step one. We're going to change your world around, and we're going to stop spending all this energy where your subconscious is just bringing you down. So what comments do you have on that? Is that something that you see, like a difference, since you don't have much of that memory since you were so young when it showed up?
Well, I was so young, so when I think back to my childhood before this happened, I don't remember pain or no pain. I don't remember anything. I just remember being 10, minding my business, and then waking up in pain. That's it. And it is what it is. We do the best we can. And we can't really do anything about the hand that we're dealt in life. All we really have control over, Lindsay, is our response to it. And that's the thing when we're in pain all the time, or at all, whatever, let's just say we stubbed our toe randomly. immediately signals go to our brain that mayday, mayday, things aren't right here. Something bad happened. It's a catastrophe. And we feel pain and so on and so forth, whatever. And so think about that kind of sensation happening habitually, and you kind of almost get caught up in this cycle, again, subconsciously. So when I think of Born This Way, it's kind of being birthed out of that, through that. Yeah. Again, to refine identity, no matter what it is that we went through. Right now we're talking about, specifically headache and migraine. And I'm happy that you use the analogy of wall for two reasons. Okay, first one is that most of the time, my head literally feels like I just took it and slammed it against something like super, super concrete. You know what I'm saying? Like the aftermath of the front of like a concussion type situation. Yeah. And the other reason I like it is because that's literally what happened to me. I pushed myself through all these years to get through school, to try to fit into the norm, to do what I thought my family wanted or what I thought was expected of me as a member of society. And I literally and figuratively hit this wall where I was paying consequences now with other parts of my body, and now I have anxiety and my emotions, I can't keep them in check. And so that's what happens when we're not balanced. And we can't get balanced, in my personal opinion, Lindsay. You asked my thoughts. My thoughts are, we can't get balanced until we check out of that subconscious state and into our consciousness.
Mm-hmm. And I think that we didn't tell everybody that despite the pain you're in and the cluster and everything, that you are a nurse. You made it through nursing school. And it is some of the stuff we put ourselves through, me to get my PhD, you to get through nursing school, in chronic pain sometimes was not all that healthy for us. And looking back, maybe we would have done something different or done it differently. And so these are some of the things that I try to teach or show people when I'm meeting with them, that maybe I didn't do everything the best way. I definitely did it wrong in high school. I wish to God I had the things available to me that people in high school have now, where they can take more time or they have special. I didn't have those things available to me, and it didn't even occur to me, to be honest, because I didn't have a diagnosis till I was 17. So these are things that, take advantage of them, and don't ever judge yourself. Don't ever judge yourself. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the subconscious before we move on?
I don't really think so, other than, to me, when I think of subconscious, I think of, because we talk about checking out of subconscious and into consciousness. Well, how? Mm-hmm. Well, if you need to think of it in a visionary way, here's your vision board. We are tapping out, like KO negativity. You are done, son. Like, I've had enough. That's enough out of you. Go sit in the corner, okay? Or another way, we're flipping a switch. There's this way that things have always kind of been, and we've got accustomed to it for better or worse. And we're flipping that switch to turn a light on, a literal light bulb. Like, oh, no, you know what? Here's my awareness. And it's, healing is a full-time job, Lindsay. That's what it has morphed into. It is a full-time job. It's a conscious effort, devoting of limited, unconditional amount of hours. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole new lifestyle change and a whole new way to live. And that can be difficult to wrap our minds around, especially if our minds are hurting.
Yes. That leads us, we were going to do things in a different order, but Mia brought that up. So maybe we should move on into, what does mindfulness and meditation mean to you?
Sure. Well, I think some people may put the two together, and that's cool. I think others might keep them completely separate, and that's cool. I think a lot of us check out when we hear those words because they are overused and they are overplayed.
They are overused.
Yes. And we haven't found a way to maybe make them real for ourselves yet. Mm-hmm. Maybe we haven't even been open to that idea. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I like to declare about those terms And I'll be curious about what your opinion of them is also. But it can mean whatever to you.
Mm-hmm.
So me being mindful might mean that when times of stress arise, I revert back to a sense of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, this is going on, but I'm grateful that this isn't happening like it did the other day, or I'm grateful that I have this in the first place to go wrong. I mean, whatever,
Right.
That saves me a lot. And then when I think about meditation, it's kind of just a relaxation state. It's me taking mindful moments, I guess, or, taking consciousness to a deeper level to feel it within the cells of my very being. And I can tell you, being someone that does not really have any pain-free days in the calendar year, right? And it's been that way for a long time. Using strategically tools like this, what you and I are describing, have gotten me to points of no pain. Mm-hmm. They have.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't fix anything. It doesn't cure anything. It doesn't last forever. But it's worth that conscious effort to get even a few moments of relief. Okay. And one thing we should bring up real quick before you answer this question too is that this practice takes years.
Years. It takes your whole life. These are life goals. These are lifetime practices.
That's right.
And they do mean different things to everyone. And I am lucky enough to now I mostly have pain-free days after never for 30 years not seeing a single pain-free day. And that is very lucky. And what I do, so when I say it's lifetime goals, I literally, and Mia knows this, I spend, at least an hour of my morning just on this. And then my whole day is pretty much devoted to this. Like, you will see me, this is what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the mortar that's holding my anti-migraine, anti-pain wall together, and that is my mentality. But I want people to know that, I can't even tell you how many years it took me to even understand the word meditation, because I really would go nuts if someone told me to meditate or tried to get me to meditate with them.
Take a deep breath, Lindsay. Just take a deep breath.
Or do
a positive
meditation. Or tried to get me to breathe with them, because it always made me hurt worse. Always. I was in so much pain that if you dared try to get me to sit still in a room and breathe, I would go insane, because that meant you were getting me to sit there and think about nothing and leave me alone with my pain. And so it took me years and years and years to find a breathing pattern that didn't cause me to hurt worse. And there's only one right now that I really do that really honestly doesn't cause me to hurt worse. And then it took me years to find a way to meditate in a way that didn't just seem like me sitting alone and allowing my pain to take over. So this is, when I talk about that I sit for an hour and work on my mentality, it took me 40 years to get there. So I don't want people to run away from the idea of improving their pain mindset, because it uses words like meditation and mindfulness if those things did not work well for you in the past, because it means something different to everyone, and there's always a way to get there. And what it means to me, honestly, is that our goal in using our mind against our pain is to somehow, you basically have to become a mental ninja. And what it's presented to us as, I feel like, in the medical field and in a lot of fields where people are trying to help us, is I feel like they tell us that we are where we're at, we have migraine, because we somehow failed in some psychological aspect. We somehow failed to handle our stress. We somehow failed to do something, and therefore it manifested in migraine, and that's where we're at. And I think that is the absolute furthest thing from the truth. I think that we have in your case, it was from a trauma or a TBI, or in my case, I was born, in my father too, it's in my family. Many of us are born with a genetic tendency toward migraine. And we have to learn to become mental and emotional ninjas or superheroes. Pick a word. And we have to be awesome at these things. Way more awesome than someone who does not have this tendency. And so that's what it means to me.
And it calls us to a different level. And I like what you're saying. When I think of the rock wall, I think of it not so much as building a wall up against the migraine itself, but maybe conducting it in such a way that I'm going to be climbing over it, with it, that kind of thing. And then when I think about going up against it, my word of choice, for example, this is how it can be different per person, and we get so hung up on terminology these days, but I'd say a coexistence, right? Because I spent so much of my life fighting against. Mm-hmm. And so what it ultimately ended up being for me, and what I felt releasing my subconscious was a sense of freedom. Mm-hmm. Not that it eliminated or took away any credibility from the pain. It just took away some of the attention. Mm-hmm. My pain does not deserve to be the center of my universe.
Right. That's so true. So true. I love that you said that, because there are a lot of practices that even people come home from their doctors with. Mm-hmm. People who write down, 3, 4, 5 times a day what their pain level is. Sure. That is good for a certain amount of time, I think. But if you're always thinking about what your pain level is, that means you're always focusing on your pain instead of on getting better. Yes. Those kinds of things are kind of like you said, your pain doesn't deserve all your attention. Healing, getting better, the life you're trying to work toward, these are the things that limited amount of energy that you have every day should be going toward. And exactly. in my thoughts.
And that leads us perfectly into the next point, which is basically, don't see yourself through the eyes of other people. So maybe if what I'm going through means that I'm at functions less, I need to take my work hours down. Maybe I need to completely walk away from work. There's no one to answer to. There's no one to dictate, really. I mean, and of course we have obligations and commitments. I'm not telling all the parents to just, quit their jobs and not have a way to feed their kids or nothing like that, but there comes a point that we need to move forward in what is best for ourselves. No one else is going to do that for us. But that doesn't mean that there's no implications. That doesn't mean that there's no impact on those around us. So, how important is it to see our own selves and stand firm in our own bodies, as opposed to being fixated on what everybody else thinks and feels? That's tough.
Yeah. I think that this third point we're making is that stop seeing yourself through other people's eyes. It's something that since I was, always this person in pain, it came so natural to me at some point that it's almost silly, that it might even sometimes seem rude, and that's okay. But I just don't care what other people think, because the first thing I hear so often from a client who I'm working with is, my boss thinks this of me, my sister thinks this of me, my spouse thinks this of me, because their spouse isn't very educated in migraine or doesn't understand. Mm-hmm. And that has taken the rest of their energy that their subconscious took, and there's almost no energy going toward their healing and toward, manifesting this future. And so, no, okay, if we have to worry that much about what their boss thinks because this poor person can't get out of bed in the morning to get to work at the exact time that their boss needs them there, then there's always the possibility that they're in the wrong job. And so we don't have room for this. If you have a friend where it's pervasive in your mind what they think of you and your migraine, and you can't fix that, maybe we just remove that friend for at least a little while until we get set in our minds that this is not who I am. What other people think of me as a person with migraine is not who I am, and I need to really set in my mind who I am apart from these people, because it is such a waste of our energy You know, we need to fill our space with other people who have migraine, people who understand migraine, so that we can start to grow separate from these thoughts we have about people around us. And I really, really think it's important to remove this concern from people's minds. I love to set people free from that if they're having trouble with it. You seem to, ever since I've met you, I feel like you're free from it too. I think it's something that it is one of the born this way traits. I think that we learn to be free from it from quite a young age.
It takes time, like everything else. It takes time, but you know, you do reach a sense of just being unapologetic, because the truth is, as disappointed or let down or angry, you know, however it is that somebody else feels about this situation can't really begin to, you know, measure up to how we feel about the situation.
So true.
And it doesn't mean that we don't want to honor, you know, where anybody else is at and how they feel. Of course we do. And I'm glad that you said what you said too, because I do feel that this process requires a bit of seclusion. To even wrap your mind around this stuff, to get to that place where the breathing can tap into the parasympathetic. And, you know, it does take getting to know ourselves on a deeper level. That's not always fun or comfortable. Mm-hmm. But there is a breakthrough that can happen. And truthfully, if there's anyone on your journey or path that won't at least try to be there and get it to the extent they can, because no one's going to get it unless they got it, you know what I'm saying? But
I love the way you talk.
So yeah, you just need to, something else that Lindsay, I said that she liked was that for me personally, I have chosen to no longer remain in a committed relationship with my pain, right? Mm-hmm. We're no longer exclusive, and I'm seeing other people. And that's how it needs to be with, you know, anybody who's not aligning with where you're at. I mean, you're talking about basically healing being a full-time job, and it so is. When I told you earlier that I was able to get myself to a pain-free state, even if it was just for a couple hours or something, that's everything. I mean, that was like, pinch myself, did that even really happen type of situation. But it took 3 hours, girl. I mean, I'm going from the tub to the couch to the bed. I'm rocking myself. I'm throwing up in between this. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to do the TMI. Yeah. You know, that's how long it took. That can't be happening on the nursing floor.
No.
That can't be happening when you need to study for your exams, for your PhD. You know what I mean? So there comes a point that, you know what, how am I contributing to this, right? Like, what's happening might not be my fault. But how am I conducting myself, and how am I responding to what's happening? Am I aiding the most healthy, authentic, healthy approach to myself? Or am I maybe pushing myself past my limits because somebody wanted me to do this and, you know, whatever, just one more hour? And we are ultimately the ones that have the say over that. So when we are exacerbated and we don't have anything left to give anybody, we're in the negative in our energy tank. I'm not saying what you did wasn't worth it, but that's the aim, right? That's one of our goals, is to not end up in that space.
Yes. And it's interesting that you said that about seclusion, because it actually, that is one of the latest lessons I learned about myself, is it's like, where did that hour go? And I finally had to start admitting to myself that, you know, I am spending an hour or so in the morning before I can delve into my work on either meditation or some other thing that has to do with my mortar, my anti-pain mentality. And that is one of the ways that, along with exercising in the morning, is one of the ways that I stay pain-free through my day. And I was originally like, gosh, what happens to me? Why do I disappear? I was outside myself, judging myself. Why am I disappearing in the morning? And that was when I was secluded and working on these things so that I could be that mental ninja, not just for myself, but for everyone else I see that's in horrible pain through the day, and talk to and try to to help out. And so don't judge yourself for this. This takes energy, and it might take time, and it might take you by yourself in a room while your kids are doing something else. My kids have learned that they're doing Legos, or they're reading, or they're doing something together at that time in the morning, and it's mommy's meditation time, and this is the way it is. So, yeah.
And there is a way. I mean, it can seem helpless and hopeless at first. Like, how am I ever going to build a life around this? Mm-hmm. But there are ways. And the first one you just mentioned is, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to find ways. I'm going to keep pushing through no matter what. I'm going to keep trying no matter what. I'm not going to give up. That's not an option for me. Making that decision is very important, And then just knowing and acknowledging things are ever flowing. So that A means give yourself grace when you are adapting to your symptoms as they come and go.
Yeah.
And that also means that grace needs to be extended outwardly to others in our lives. You need to understand I'm not always going to be able to make it. You need to understand sometimes at the last minute I'm going to cancel. You need to understand that even if I get there, I might not be around or have to leave. Mm-hmm. And that's not something that we need to internalize and feel bad for. It's bad enough having to deal with this in the first place. Mm-hmm. So that definitely comes down to a matter of self-compassion, which I'm sure we could spend a whole nother week or something probably discussing.
Yeah, definitely.
What are your closing thoughts on all this? Like, maybe where does a person start, or,
My closing thoughts, I think that you need to start by surrounding yourself. Like we said, if you have a lot of people in your life that are pulling your energy because they don't understand your migraine disease or your chronic pain,
right,
then you need to replace those people with people who do. So, groups, whether it's Facebook, like Migraine Nation or Kohu, mm-hmm. surround yourself with people the best way you can, whether it's virtually or in person, and so that you can start this supportive mentality becomes the norm, because then you start to support yourself better when you're surrounded by other people who are supportive. And I would say that is step one. That's step one.
It is. I was just thinking that. You took the words right out of my mouth, that, we need to get to that point that we're able to support ourselves and show up for ourselves. And that doesn't mean we're not going to have moments that we get knocked down, mm-hmm. and we need to just take a breather and maybe spend a few days in bed, whatever that looks like to you. But rising up again with, using that gained experience from what we just went through as strength to keep pushing forward for the sake of yourself and for the sake of others. And that's how we build community, and that's how we make breakthroughs, and that's how we're going to ultimately see change. And we all have the same hope and goal at the end of the day, which is less pain, and maybe even a pain-free future for us all.
And I think that, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I think there's a second step.
What's that?
Don't judge yourself.
Oh, yes.
Because you know that, like, I fail at some step of my wall every day. And yesterday was one of my hardest days.
We all do.
Yeah. I was in, I don't get numerous days in a row of pain very often anymore. Most of my days are pain-free. But weather triggers me like crazy. So we had some crazy weather, and I didn't even count how many days I was miserable in a row. And yesterday I was like, yeah, I've had it. And it wasn't just, I was like, okay, I'm not used to this anymore, and I'm tired, and I had, endless other, what a crazy time this is. Thank you very much, 2020. It's just crazy for everyone. And so don't judge yourself. You fail at something, so what? You know what? You fail at one of your strategies in your wall, big deal. Get over it. Learn to get over it in 1 second. That's what resilience is about. We need to be resilient in this disease, which means we come back from our own failures immediately and don't judge ourselves. That's how I feel about resilience.
Yes, and we don't even have to label them necessarily anything, let alone, failures per se, because there's always something that we can gain. Mm-hmm. There's always something to be learned, and we can shake a fist up at the sky like, I'm strong enough. Like what now, whatever. But that just does not fuel our greater good and the best that we can be at our most healthy self. So if we could learn to get to a point and practice this, and embody this, that we observe things, including pain, as opposed to absorb things, to take them on, to carry them, that they then become a part of our very being and existence. It's not necessary, and we deserve more and better. And I'm not saying that it's easy, like we already covered. It's hard, and it takes a lot of time. It takes years. It's a lifelong practice. I think you said that already.
It is.
Every day, all day long. But are we not our own best investment?
Exactly. Yes. And I love that we both, because you use words and have a different focus that will hopefully speak to people, certain people, and then I use different words in a different focus that will hopefully speak to certain people.
We do complement each other quite nicely.
I hope that there are some people out there that felt this was a blessing to them and that learned something.
Yes.
And I hope everyone is having a good migraine and headache awareness month.
As good as it can get when you're as aware as we are.
So, anyway.
So, yes, go ahead and look in the comments or, for follow-up information to contact either one of us. And thank you, Lindsay, so much for taking time to hang out with me today. I really appreciate you.
You.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.